When new inventions emerge, they divide society. Think back to the television or the cell phone. A select few had them, and they made sure you knew. Today, the same thing is happening, but with vaccines. Let me tell you what's going on in the US. If you've received a single-shot J&J vaccine, you're a one-doser. If you got Moderna, you're part of the middle class. But if you got Pfizer, you are the real deal, a double-dosed Pfizer elite. This is what social media is peddling in the United States. These are some of the memes that we found. They make Pfizer look like the rich man's jab. One user called it decadent and luxurious. Of course, all of this is hogwash. The best vaccine is the one that you get. And it goes without saying, linking vaccines with class is just horrible. But we won't go into that. Instead, we'll discuss how Pfizer built this brand, how much money they're making from vaccines, and when you could see them in India. First, some quick history. Pfizer is a pharma veteran. The company was founded way back in 1849. Almost a century later, they had their biggest breakthrough. They successfully mass-produced penicillin. Today, they're among the leading pharma giants in the world. Last year, they reported $9.6 billion in profits. This was before the vaccine rollout. Now, add Wuhan virus vaccines to this equation, and the numbers explode. Let me pull up Pfizer's Q1 report for you. That's for the first 3 months of 2021. The vaccine brought in $3.5 billion in revenue, $3.5 billion. Nearly a quarter of all revenue came from the jabs. It was hands down the biggest seller. What about profits? Pfizer did not actually publish that data, but they did say this. Profit margins would be in the high 20% range. If you do the math, that's around $900 million in 3 months, and this is pre-tax profit. So Pfizer is saving lives, and it is getting rich doing it. But who is Pfizer selling to? The world's rich. They're planning to produce 2.5 billion doses this year, 2.5 billion. Guess how many they have pledged for COVAX? 40 million, the vaccine alliance for the poorer countries, for all countries in fact. Just 2% of their total output. In contrast, the much smaller Moderna is giving 500 million doses. That's one way Pfizer is earning money, by selling to the rich. The other is by signing opaque deals. Pfizer has a different price tag in each country, and they don't reveal it. Some reports say the US is paying $19.5 per dose. Israel, on the other hand, is paying $30 for one dose. So they want to profit, but they don't want to be seen profiting. But all these factors put together, and you will understand why Pfizer is considered the Rolls-Royce of jabs. So when is this Rolls-Royce arriving in India? It's difficult to say, but one thing is for sure. Pfizer is watching India closely. They recently donated medicines worth $70 million to India. It is being called Pfizer's largest humanitarian effort in history. As for the vaccines, this is what Pfizer's CEO had to say.
Pfizer is aware that access to vaccines is critical to ending this pandemic. Unfortunately, our vaccine is not registered in India, although our application was submitted months ago. We are currently discussing with the Indian government an expedited approval pathway to make our Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine available for use in the country.
So Pfizer is in talks with the government of India. They're seeking speedy approval. But why was there a delay in the first place? Now, if you think back to last year, Pfizer was among the first to seek emergency approval for its vaccine in India. But in February this year, they pulled out, withdrew their application. India wanted a small local safety trial. Pfizer was unwilling. But then came the second wave. India was facing vaccine shortages, so it relaxed regulations. All foreign jabs approved by major regulators were fast-tracked in India, but there was one condition. They had to organize a domestic trial within 30 days of approval. This appears to be the sticking point. A Pfizer spokesperson was asked whether the company had sought a waiver for domestic trials, and she replied that Pfizer's application was backed by overseas trial data. She said the jab was already endorsed by all major regulators. So it looks like Pfizer wants to jump the queue. That's the news on the approval front. But assuming that the jab is cleared, two worries still remain: cost and storage. Pfizer has promised to deliver its vaccines at cost to India, and that's some relief. But what about storage? Pfizer jabs are stored at minus 70 degrees Celsius. India does not have the infrastructure for this. So what is the workaround? The company says they could deliver the shots in specially designed containers. Deliver them right at the vaccination centers. You can extend their shelf life by using dry ice. But this will give you days, not months. So if and when the Pfizer jabs arrive in India, they will have to fly off the shelves. Of course, it would be much easier if Pfizer shared their formulas with Indian producers, but they're very big on patents. So that is off the table. At the start, we told you how Pfizer successfully mass-produced penicillin. But we did not tell you when they did it. It was during the Second World War. Thousands of Allied soldiers lived because of Pfizer. Today, the same company is making millions from a crisis. India is Pfizer's shot at redemption. And unlike their vaccine, this takes a lot more than just 2 doses. Meanwhile, in Canada, regulators have approved Pfizer's vaccine for kids above 12 years of age, all adolescents basically. The US regulator is expected to do the same this week. So a whole new demographic will now be using the Pfizer jab, which means more scope for sales in the West. In March, Pfizer had published some data on their vaccines and what kind of effect it has on children. There were more than 2,000 volunteers, all of them aged between 12 and 15. The results were quite impressive. 0 Wuhan virus cases. That's when the company sought approval from the US and Canada. But it really does tell a story. Most of the world does not have enough shots for their vulnerable population. And here you have Canada and the US approving jabs for kids. Much needed, no doubt. And Pfizer is ready to deliver. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.